If you're old enough, you could probably still remember those red towers of Circuit City. The company dominated retail electronics for decades and at its peak had more than 600 stores and $10 billion in annual sales. Then, in less than 10 years, the entire chain was gone. This is the story of the rise and fall of Circuit City. In 1949, Sam Wurtzel was passing through Richmond, Virginia, stopped for a haircut, and noticed a TV playing in the barbershop. Realizing this was going to be a big thing, he quickly moved his family to Richmond and within weeks opened a small television store called Ward's. Sam knew he had a winner on his hands. He just needed to get the customers to taste the product. So he came up with the brilliant idea of letting people try televisions in their own homes before committing. Once the thing was sitting in someone's living room, it rarely came back. That approach worked so well that by the 50s, Ward's also started selling appliances. Sam opened multiple locations around Richmond and began experimenting with ideas like mail-order catalogs, small mall stores, store-within-a-store concepts, and licensed departments inside other retailers. Much of it didn't work, and by the early 70s, the business was stretched thin. That's when Sam's son, Alan, stepped in. He closed down things that weren't working, cleaned up unnecessary overexpansion, and started investing in the future of retail electronics. It was the mid-70s. Bigger stores had started winning in retail and electronics were getting more expensive and complicated. People wanted some guidance before making a purchase. After all, if you were going to invest hundreds of dollars on an unfamiliar item like a VCR or a stereo system, it made sense to get expert advice first. Alan pivoted the company into warehouse-style electronics superstores, initially called Ward's Loading Dock, and later rebranded them to Circuit City. The format clicked so well that they changed the company's name to Circuit City and went public in 1984. By 1987, Circuit City sales had already passed the $1 billion mark. Over the next few years, it kept climbing steadily into the tens of billions, as store count went from dozens to hundreds. By the time the 90s came around, Circuit City was so big that it started to become complacent. And that's when the fall began. Quick pause. If you're loving the trip down memory lane, drop a comment below and hit that like and subscribe button before we go to the downfall. During its expansion stage in the 80s and early 90s, Circuit City often used to open stores a little farther out from main shopping corridors to lower their rental costs. Their thinking was that customers would just drive the extra mile as there was no other option available. For a long time, it worked. But by the mid-90s, electronics had started becoming cheaper and easier to understand. And that meant fewer people were willing to go out of their way for a purchase they could make quickly somewhere else. That shift created an opening for Best Buy, who chose to be present in higher traffic locations, closer to other big box retailers and major shopping centers. They also adopted a more relaxed, self-service, central checkout kind of environment. That meant that a lot of the lower margin items that Circuit City struggled to justify under a commission structure, like accessories, CDs, and peripherals, were easier for Best Buy to carry. Circuit City noticed but was too sure of itself to do anything about it. In 1998, it even had a chance to buy Best Buy for around $30 million, but it passed, figuring it could outcompete the model rather than absorb it. Around the same time, management attention drifted away from the core business towards a lot of new experiments. First, Circuit City invested heavily in a proprietary DVD-like format called DivX that let customers watch a disc for 48 hours before it locked itself. Consumers didn't like it, other retailers refused to support it, and the whole thing was abandoned after roughly a year at a cost of over $100 million. Then, they also set up CarMax, thinking they could apply big box retail-like thinking to sell used cars. That one actually worked, but it pulled talent and focus away from the core electronics business. When CarMax was spun off in 2002, Circuit City got cash, but it also lost managers who understood how to scale and run complex operations. In the year 2000, a new CEO, Alan McCullough, took over. He wasn't a retail lifer in the same way his predecessors had been. He was more analytical, more focused on cost efficiency, and very aware that Circuit City's cost structure didn't match the direction the market was moving. One of his first major decisions was to exit the appliance business entirely. Appliances made up roughly 10 to 15% of sales and a significant chunk of floor space. They were expensive to ship and store, and competition from Home Depot and Lowe's was heating up. From a spreadsheet perspective, getting rid of them freed space and reduced logistics costs. The timing, though, was terrible. The early 2000s turned into one of the biggest housing booms in US history, which drove appliance sales sharply upward. Circuit City walked away from that demand just as it peaked, while competitors like Best Buy happily continued to sell appliances alongside TVs, computers, and games. The decision also gave customers one less reason to travel all the way to Circuit City. At the same time, the retailers decided it needed to imitate the Best Buy model, which was working well. It rolled out new layouts with lower sightlines, more self-service, and central checkouts. Unfortunately, many locations had been built quickly in the 80s during the expansion stage and were already showing their age. Remodeling was expensive, so the rollouts kept getting scaled back. Many stores ended up half-updated, which only ended up highlighting the stagnation as compared to newer competitors. Then, in 2003, Circuit City made one of its worst moves. It eliminated its commission sales model, letting go of nearly 4,000 of their highest-paid, most experienced employees and moving the rest to hourly pay. On paper, it saved them $100 million a year, but in practice, it created a huge mess. Many of the laid-off employees went straight to Best Buy, taking product knowledge and customer relationships with them. The people who stayed had less incentive to sell, less incentive to specialize, and very little reason to feel loyal. Sales dipped, and customer experiences got noticeably worse. But instead of slowing down and fixing core problems, Circuit City kept trying new angles. It bought a Canadian electronics chain and got pulled into lawsuits. It partnered exclusively with Verizon for in-store wireless sales, which meant turning away customers who used other carriers. It launched FireDog to compete with Best Buy's Geek Squad, but it was several years too late and had far less momentum. Meanwhile, there was also a lot of churn happening at the leadership level. In 2007, Circuit City laid off 3,400 experienced workers, again targeting higher-paid staff and reducing entry wages. Despite all this, the company was still the biggest player in the industry. Even in the mid-2000s, Circuit City had hundreds of stores and over $10 billion in annual revenue. The problem was that it wasn't generating enough profit to absorb mistakes or invest heavily in change. Under pressure from shareholders, the company spent nearly $1 billion buying back its own stock between 2003 and 2007, often at prices far higher than what the shares would soon be worth. That strapped the firm of cash that could have gone toward store upgrades. At the same time, online shopping started eating away into the retail electronics pie. While Best Buy countered by revamping its online offering and offering a price match guarantee, Circuit City dithered. Its website lagged far behind competitors, and for several years, Amazon actually handled its online electronics sales. That meant giving up direct control of customer relationships in the one channel that was growing fastest. By the time the financial crisis hit in 2008, Circuit City was in a bad position. Sales were soft, cash reserves were low, and seeing those numbers, their suppliers decided to tighten credit terms. It was the worst possible time, just before entering the holiday season, causing a death spiral of unstocked shelves, low sales, and tighter credit for the firm. In November that year, Circuit City filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, hoping to restructure and find a buyer. At the time, it still operated over 550 stores and employed tens of thousands of people. Unfortunately, a sale never materialized, and by January next year, the court ordered liquidation. More than 30,000 employees lost their jobs, and all remaining stores closed by March. The brand lingered online for a while, changed hands, and was eventually retired again. The red towers stayed behind as empty shells, slowly repurposed into other stores, gyms, or nothing at all. Do you remember visiting Circuit City in the 80s or 90s? Share your experience in the comments below, and help me out by clicking the like and subscribe buttons.